Hello, everybody, and I couldn't wait for this episode, guys. As you can see in the top right hand side corner, the 747s are rolling in, and I already have 20 of them for a total of 24 so far this episode. And I still have 1.3 million K left. Um, so I'm yet to decide what I'm going to spend with all that money. But for now, we're going to go ahead and start upgrading our routes to 747s. I don't care which routes, but I'm going to be like Ellen DeGeneres here. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, actually. Just every route gets a 747, every single one of them. Um, if the route looks somewhat decent, I'm upgrading it to a 747. That's basically it. I'm not going to put too much thought into it. I'm just going to go ahead and switch every damn route, which looks pretty decent with a decently sized cities, to 747s. Now, I'm not even going to care so much about competition because 747s, unless the other guy is also flying one, is going to smash the competition. All the demand is going to prioritize boarding my large 747 with high satisfaction first, so I don't have to worry so much about little planes kind of leeching my demand. That's not really a concern. I just need to make sure the routes I do decide to make are decently sized routes because that the 747s do care about at the end of the day. Um, Routes like this, as you can see, there's already a 747 on it, and it's not quite full, interestingly enough. Maybe there's just a bit too much competition on a route like this, but we'll think about even upgrading these routes to 747s later on. For now, I'm going to see if there's any like larger monopoly routes, and then those ones will be my priority for 747s. Um, yeah, just look at stuff like this. This is pretty interesting. As you can see, this guy's name value has dropped 0 basically in his home base due to lack of investment. Look at the load factors. I'm flying a stopover half, and he's flying direct, and look at the profit. It's just not even close, and it's definitely not worth the saving and investment costs when you lose that much more money um, from trying to save a little bit on not investing in advertising and stuff like that. And it kind of just shows that low cost does not work because the benefit of low cost does not draw people away enough. If, for example, you could still like pull away the demand with really really cheap aircraft, um, and really really no service satisfaction level at all, which you charge a low enough price, say like 0.8 or whatever, then maybe it would be possible. But there's too many fixed costs which the player can't reduce, so that doesn't really work. You can't really reduce your maintenance costs. You can't really reduce your fuel costs. You can't really reduce your personnel costs by having unhappy personnel. I mean, the penalty for passengers is just too big. Um, so, unfortunately, that's not really programmed into the game very well. And I've yet to see a airline simulator which is good enough to simulate a low cost airline. But I think that's in general really really difficult to balance because how do you make it so that it's possible to pull off profitably and then is very effective but not so good that you run a low cost airline no matter what and just dominate the competition. um, I think that's a pretty hard balance to pull. And as you can see, we're getting 6 schedules per week for some of these 747s, which is kind of insane. That's going to be remarkably profitable. Yeah, I can't wait. And let's see also if we can get some larger routes in here. Right now, we've only been doing the medium-sized routes. So, of course, all the large routes have competition. Sometimes a lot of competition. What's a good example? Um, if we can find some of the bigger cities in the world to London, like Shanghai or Houston or that kind of city, we'll see that a lot of them have competition, but like a lot of really great routes don't have competition, like Sendai. These are like Sendai is like a 400 business and tour combined city, so I think it's worth upgrading to a 747 to London. Keep in mind, if your base is smaller than mine, you're gonna have to be a lot more selective about the routes you do upgrade to 747s, because a lot of them just won't be making money unless the route is quite a bit bigger than the routes I'm upgrading. Uh, yeah, this is kind of one of the advantages of being in a massive base. So, like London to Beijing, for example, to Canary Islands. Let's see, like what kind of competition we're working with here. Two 747s. Um, that's an ambitious guy, and he's got great satisfaction. So I don't want to mess with him yet. But as you can see, he's not investing in London, so his name value is dropping. So that's gonna be a weak competitor later on. Yeah, and a route like this, I want to try using a 747. Um, I kind of just want to see what happens more than knowing that it's gonna be the best route. Like 3 layers of competition, what's gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, pretty interesting. Like, there's 4 layers of competition, like tons of 747s. The guy's like a little bit too ambitious on the number of planes which can fly on a single route. I don't know why people are stacking the large routes so much in this world. Are they AI players? Like, I heard that this game has AI players, and I completely would believe that, if that were the case, because I do not at least know any humans who would play in the way that, like, stack the same route with like 18 planes. Um, Maybe because people play ATO5, and that's what the AIs do on that game. That's what people think is a good strategy. I have no idea. I'm just spitballing and just kind of guessing. Now, as you can see, guys, I have a ton of money, and I'm not too sure what to do with it. Uh, Normally, when the 747s come out, I would do a strategy where I lease as many Tupolevs as possible, or buy as many Tupolevs as possible, because they're dirt cheap, of course, and then that allows me to lease um, almost as many 747 as I'd like. The problem with that strategy is you gotta put the Tupolev somewhere, or they actually do lose enough money to make living with them just sitting there not doing anything tough. Um, you still gotta pay for their maintenance, and their depreciation and such stuff like that, and it adds up when you have as many as I would want to be leasing, or buying. So I think I need to find some alternative. Um, and I think if we take a look at it, McDonnell Douglas does not have the DC-10 yet. That would be a really good candidate for the kind of plane I want to buy. Illusion does not have the Illusion 62M yet. So there's really no options here besides buying. Probably I could buy 747s outright. Um, that would be a potential idea. Another potential idea would be to buy 707s outright. I haven't quite decided yet. Um, Buying 747s outright would mean I don't get very many. I get like 5 or 10 of them because they're so darn expensive. But once again, the ROI time on 747s is really quite shockingly short. So it could be a good idea. Um, so I have no idea if that's going to be worth it or not. But for now, I'm just going to keep making these happy little stopover routes until we got to really think about what we're going to do. Yeah, I don't care if both halves of the stop at this point are in competition. Um, oh, I know what we should do. Is we should open New York as a hub. I think we can finally do that. There's a decent number of slots left in some of the airports, so yeah, we can go ahead and open New York as a hub. As you can see, we finally have invested enough in it. Um, I wonder if anyone's open in Los Angeles yet, but yeah, Los Angeles is still looking really open, so I should hurry up and invest more there um, as soon as possible, and stop kind of delaying LA. Yeah, we need to increase that a couple levels there. Just speed that up. And I need to pick another base now, because obviously 4 bases is not going to be enough in the future. And I'm thinking that I heard some other of you guys were, I think the guy based in Paris right now is going to do Atlanta next. I can't remember. Is any of us doing Frankfurt? Because otherwise I'd be interested in Frankfurt. So I'm gonna try and open a route to Frankfurt, I guess, and then start building name value there. I'll probably invest a lot in it just so it goes kind of quickly, because I think I've been under investing in cities. I've been kind of AFK a lot of the time, not really paying attention to the game, and now I'm kind of um, losing ground in like a lot of senses in terms of the amount of passengers I have, amount of planes, how much money I've just been sitting on, and of course it's not like intentionally bad or whatever, because once again the plan was always to just spam um, 747s when they came out, and I didn't really know how much money I would need for that. I didn't do the math because I was lazy, and of course I had more money than I needed, so I could have spent these on aircraft, and those aircraft would have been making money instead of just sitting in the bank doing nothing. But alas, it's not such a big deal. um, yeah, we still have a lot of chance to make a lot of money. Come on, total flight range is too short. Is there anything in Africa we can use? I guess we can always just use North America. Um, it's a minefield out here, but there are still some untaken routes, and hopefully we can get 4 schedules a week. Perfect. Who knows? Maybe that'll even be 5 schedules per week with a 747, but I somewhat doubt it's that fast. 747 is a fast flying aircraft, of course, but I'm not sure it's fast enough, quite fast enough to compensate for um, that extra distance. It's a good plane, of course, but just not good enough. Anyways, let's continue to open stopover routes. As you can see, I'm not even looking at the competition. I know who it is. It's the same player, and he's not a very good player. He has consistently low satisfaction ratings, and that simply means I can just open up routes on top of him with very little regard. Um, I mean, I feel like these players have to be AIs. Wing Air, um, like default name, um, like doubling planes with weird prices like 1.28, 1.36. What human players charge those prices? I don't know. Maybe they do, but I wouldn't know. Um, and if they're not AIs, then that's pretty interesting, and I'm apparently wrong then. But I really am starting to get a pretty good impression that they are. Um, Anyways, with that in mind, let's see if we can find any more routes which are untaken. I really should have spent some more time requesting slots. Um, because as you can see, I didn't quite request enough, and now we're starting to run out. Uh, yeah, eventually, like literally every city to London is gonna be the goal, basically. So yeah, I haven't quite requested enough slots, but we still have a lot of slots in London and a lot of slots in London Heathrow too. So we're gonna have a good time there. But yeah, North America looks like I'm basically out. Do you see this? I don't actually see a single city we're missing. Like, obviously, I could be missing one, but yeah, I don't see one. So I guess we'll use Africa instead. A Lome to London, and we're gonna want to find a city around Urumqi, which is about the most steep angle where we can still open around. Of course, we're still gonna use these DC-11s, even though they're gonna be kind of shitty and unprofitable compared to like actually good aircraft. But we're going to use them anyway because there's no point in having aircraft if you're not going to use them. Uh, yeah, that's apparently an acute angle route, which of course is not allowed. See if there's anything not acute. Ooh, we could do Cape Town with the 747 because that's newly in range, which is really nice. For the second stop, I guess we could do something like Helsinki, but Helsinki is kind of small. I wish we could find a bigger city. Yeah, unfortunately, we can't. See if there's 6 schedules per week. Nah, let's see. You can find a 6 schedule per week flight. Because that's kind of cool, right? The fact you can get 6 schedules per week. Ooh, I think this works. No, 5, really? Manchester? Oh, it's too short. Ah, Leeds is actually where. Ooh, no. It's like just 10,000 kilometers to get 6 schedules per week. Why doesn't this get. Okay. Whatever. 5 schedules per week. We'll work with it. I mean, I'm too triggered to do that. The reason being, uh, I know that it's so close to the 5 like breakpoint that it's you know what, I'll do it. It's not gonna be the most profitable 747 in the world, but it's just a good route, so why not? 100% load factor still has some value in terms of a good route, right? So let's go ahead and open that up. I think there was a few routes in Southeast Asia too, which are newly available. Yeah. So Taiwan and Taipei is one of them. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. Once again, I'm just ignoring competition. Even though 747 is a good competition, I mean, on a good stopover route, there should not be any problem whatsoever to kind of steal away load factor. Of course, we don't have a stopover destination because of bad planning on my part. But what I'm going to do, I guess, is I'm going to spend a while just requesting slots and in various different airports and buying aircraft. I'm not sure what type yet. I think because I just opened I'm gonna open New York, right? As I'm gonna need a lot of smaller aircraft to kind of take all the routes I want to take. So that means I think I should buy 707s. I mean, 75% satisfaction is still not bad. Um, It's not the end of the world for these 707s. They're still decent aircraft. Um, there they are. Let's shrink the. No, no, no. Let's make sure the business class is still a decent size. All right, and of course, what we can do now actually is wait, back. We can go ahead and add satellite phone and level 2 seats, and that'll boost the satisfaction of just a fraction of a couple percent, um, which always matters. So we can go ahead and order 2 batches of those, and I can start requesting slots over in New York and the rest of Europe and North America to start hopefully making some more stopovers. And yeah, I'll be back in probably a little bit. All right, guys, we're back with some more slots now to work with, and we can start opening routes to New York. And New York is looking really free. And what I mean by that is I am not seeing too much competition around here. And that means we can open fantastic stopover routes everywhere we go. Um, and that's awesome. Like, take a look at this. If we use a 747, this should get 6 schedules per week. Isn't that cool? Um, you know what? I might as well open this route with 747 because that's just freaking awesome that it gets 6 schedules per week on a stopover, which is, I'm pretty sure, the maximum. And the 747 is the fastest cruising aircraft in the game, if I'm like not mistaken. And that simply means that you'll never be able to get more than 6 schedules per week on a stopover route, which is why I want to keep that route, as it's kind of cool and kind of a novelty, as we won't be able to make so many of those. Um, Another little issue here is that, of course, making these stopover routes, we're never gonna be able to make like every single route to New York a stopover route. Take a look at these close routes here to like Spain and whatever. There's simply no way to stop over all of them. So we'll just make these flights direct. Um, Direct flights are nice at least because they're super fast to make. You know, you click 2 buttons, the route is made. Um, but yeah, there's simply no way to convert them into stopover routes without consuming like all the stopover cities, which you might as well save for future and longer routes. And because these are point to point, of course, the planes we're using are always going to be smaller, so they're always going to be some of the smallest available planes available. I just said available twice in the same sentence like a dumbass, but what I meant is I'm always going to be using some of the smallest planes available for these routes, like 767s in the future, A310, 300s, that sort of aircraft. Not really 747s or that kind of stuff because those are kind of reserved for stopovers. Um, and there's still going to be plenty of stopover opportunities from New York. Primarily to the yellow cities you see here, we can stop over. And then, ooh, wow, everybody's flying a stopover, it looks like, not bad. So we can fly a stop, and then the second stop would be to like Shanghai, for example. And that would be how we would run these kind of stopovers. Um, so we can go ahead and start opening them too. As you can see, they get 4 schedules per week, which is a pretty decent break point. Um, they have one weakness, which is the second half of the stopover has really, really low route image. Um, Simply because like Shanghai only has like 20 or 30 name value right now. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit unfortunate in that sense because we're still waiting for name value out of Shanghai. But once it kind of fixes itself, gets some name value going, it's gonna be fantastic. So yeah, we can go ahead and lease more aircraft now. And once again, I want to spend as much money as I can on 747s and nothing else. So we can go ahead and make sure we're doing that. And yeah, I probably should have requested more slots in New York, but it's okay. For direct flights, once again, we just gonna like 8 schedules per week is kind of insane, actually, and we can't do that because we, of course, don't have 8 schedules per week. And let's take a look at these main routes. Why is there so much layers of competition? I don't even know. Um, like normally, like I like to make fun of the fact that everybody stacks the same routes, and nobody makes that much money, but people are doing that to an extreme in this world, and I'm not too sure why. But whatever, it's not a big deal. We can go ahead and kind of ignore the fact that there's just tons and tons of stacks on the really big routes and not really focus on them too much myself. Um, I'll make the priority for my airline, of course, the second rate routes. And that sounds like a bad thing, but it's honestly not because the second tier routes are almost as profitable because they're not actually that much smaller. Like you can still fill a 747 directly even to a lot of these medium cities. But like nobody competes with them as much, so you end up making more money or not really having to manage or change your prices ever, which is kind of something valuable at least. Save yourself some time. Don't have to change the price every 10 seconds, don't that kind of thing. Um, don't have to worry about the satisfaction level of your aircraft. Doesn't matter if the route you're flying an older aircraft too much. As long as it's not too old. Once it gets too old, even people will stop flying on it, even though it's a monopoly. Um, so that's a kind of little thing to note. But yeah, we're just gonna keep opening up all these routes. Um, and yeah, once again, it's kind of annoying, unfortunately, that slots are the biggest constraint now. Once again, having unrestricted slot opening or like no slot timers would be infinitely valuable. Like the no planes I can deal with. Um, you know what? Like if you have no planes, you order them 10 at a time, and you only have to log in once every half an hour to make sure you're getting enough planes. That's not so bad. But the slots don't really quite keep up with the planes. Um, at the end of the day, you need more planes than you need slots, and that's kind of annoying. Um, or you need more slots than you need planes. Like if you order 10 planes and then come on every 15 minutes, which is of course the slot timer eventually, just to order planes, you're actually still going to run out of planes, which is or run out of slots, which is kind of wild. And look at this, like just a slightly better route, like London to Washington, and all of a sudden there's like 8 layers of competition. I'm sorry, but I just don't really understand why. Um, I think it must be AI players because I don't think human players do that. Um, anyways, I have no idea, but this should be a 747. Uh, there we go, 747. Boom. Um, yeah, I seriously need to find a way to make a stopover with Taipei. I mean, some people would probably be thinking something like this, but the reason that doesn't work is the second leg has literally zero route image. The plane's going to be empty, so it's kind of a waste of a second leg. Um, so you never want to make stopovers like that. You always want to make stopovers involving a city which you have major investment in. Um, that way the route will be full actually, and that's kind of what we want, right? So I'm thinking Nice or Lyon. Uh, yeah, both pretty good options. We can go ahead and open the routes up now. And one thing we gotta do before the turn ticks over is we got to make sure we set our prices correctly. Otherwise, we're going to be all over the place trying to set our prices correctly. And it's going to be a little bit of a disaster. So let's try not to do that, and let's try and finish off this entire turn. Why is there no 747s? Did I run out? Oh, I ran out of 747s. All right, we got to wait a few minutes. All right. In the meanwhile, let's keep opening routes to London City. And of course, this is the biggest episode so far. There's just so many routes we need to make. And I'm trying to go as fast as possible. It's going to be a long episode anyway. Um, you know how it is. And just making sure I'm recording, because I have done this before where I record what I think is a fantastic and important episode. And then I realize I never resumed the recording after a pause. And, well, I get mad usually and don't upload it. But, um, anyways, let's see if we can keep opening these routes. There's so many to make. I've given up on the 5 schedules per week, as you can see. We're just rolling with 4 or whatever we get now. Ooh, I think we've run out of slots in London, that looks like. Or at least the London airport I was attempting to use. I'm sure we have stops in, or slots in the second airport, yeah. I really wish it just automatically selected the airport with slots for you if you select the wrong one. But that's, of course, not what happens, unfortunately. So we have to always select our own slots. Um, yeah, that's one of my reasons why I really like the main airport more than secondary airports, actually. It's just because you never have to deal with the secondary airport or the primary airport, like selecting the wrong one. It always selects it automatically. So then you get, um, yeah, see, I did it again. Selected the wrong airport. Um, yeah, so you never get kind of no slots or that kind of thing. So actually, Daegu is really far. So if we can find a 1,000 kilometer route, yeah, we can get a perfectly 5 schedule upgraded to 6 with a 747 later on. Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of a lack of 747s early on because we don't have enough money, unfortunately. With the no Tupolev strategy, because it almost feels like cheating. Ooh, Chongqing is open. Interesting. Yeah, we'll crash some slots there soon. But almost feels like cheating when you spend like what is it, 18 million on a Tupolev 124, and then you get 3 times, so that's like 60 million, and that allows you to lease a 747. So you basically pay 100 million for a 747. And the Tuplevs don't make money, they don't lose money, but what they do is they take forever to schedule, and if you don't schedule them, they do lose money, so you have to schedule them. And ooh, that's a 3 schedule route, and that's not what I want. I want a 4 schedule route. So let's do something like this. This should be 4. Yeah. And let's of course use a 320B whenever possible because they are the better aircraft compared to the DC-8. Marginally better, but that doesn't mean they're not better. And what we can do here is we need to request more slots across Europe because these are going to be prime destinations for New York. Um, and yet, well, there's so many cities that we should have requested earlier on, but like at some point you don't want to request so many slots even early on because it's gonna like cut into your profits kind of. um, but yeah, now we can go ahead and open all these routes. There's like no way to stop over them, as I mentioned before, so you just fly them direct with slightly smaller aircraft. And for the farther European cities though, like Eastern Europe, we're of course going to use stopovers because it's possible, but for these closer ones, yes, just don't bother, fly them direct. Sometimes the geography just be like that and doesn't let you make any routes. And look at how fast you can make routes if you have slots everywhere. Like it doesn't take very much time at all, which is kind of my goal for this playthrough. Of course, is to not spend too much time on it. Um, Taking a couple classes right now, tutoring a few people. Uh, so like I'm not a busy man, right? But sometimes it's just not the thing you really want to be doing all day every day. It's just grinding out slots to like freaking play your Air Tycoon online. Um, yeah, with that in mind, oh yeah, the wrong airport. I was like, why is there no slots, man? Um, yeah, we can keep opening up these routes. I don't know at what point I can start stopovering, but we'll see. I know that the Eastern Europe is or Eastern North America is 4,000 kilometers away, so routes over 6,000 kilometers in theory should be stopoverable. So we can try it out. Take a route like Los Angeles to New York. I'm sure this will literally be loaded with competition. Yeah, look at that. Wow, people are still making money on a route like that. Kind of incredible. But yeah, in real life, actually, in a route like that would be making hella money because that's not a lot of competition. For example, London to New York in real life is like 10,000 passengers a day. We need a lot more aircraft flying that than what we have now. Um, and yeah, obviously it's not 10,000 per day in the 1960s, but by modern times it should be about something like that. So yeah, for Eastern United States, we can of course stop over. Um, so yeah, once again, the range break point is somewhere around 4,000. Hard to tell. Um, but yeah, I mean, this looks like a great thing to do. Just like a stop, New York, and then to Europe like that. And of course, there's not a lot of cities in the Eastern United States, Mexico, and like South America. But we can go ahead and make sure we get as much value as possible out of all those stops. Um, anyways, I'll be back once we have some more slots. Alright guys, my 747s actually just arrived, so we can go ahead and use those aircraft. One thing I'm going to say is that this next turn is going to be an absolutely insane, crazy kind of turn. There's so many aircraft I'm scheduling right now that I have no idea what's going to happen. I know the like need for London slots or encounters, I mean, and offices is going to blow up. So what we're going to do is we're going to preemptively probably almost double these. I know it seems extreme, but 747s, remember, are 2.5 times bigger than a DC-8, so better be safe than sorry. And make sure we got enough. And London 2, even, yeah, I don't think we have a lot of good routes to London 2, but we're going to make sure those are good too. And then there's New York. How do I get the New York to appear here? There we go. So we're going to need more of these too. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we have a good amount of these as well. Just Just make sure that none of these are going to be overflowing, um, because that's the dumbest way to lose money. And eventually, right, you're gonna have so many airports that they're gonna be overflowing everywhere, and you just won't have time to make sure every single one is good. But in the early-ish game, which we are still in now, may as well make sure our routes are nice like that. Anyways, let's keep opening stopovers. Starting to run out of cities to stop to, eh? What we can do is something like this. Ooh, it's unfortunately like not the correct range. I think we just requested some cities around here though, so let's see if something like this works. Yeah, perfect. Um, I mean, basically this route is just London to Shenzhen. The second half has so little weight at the length it's at, but it'll make some money. So um, that's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not completely a dud route. Um, and once again, this is unusual. It's a deviation from my normal stopover strategy, where I like halves which are about the same length, and I'm just trying stuff out. You know what I mean? You don't always like. Of course, I've basically like for lack of a better way of saying this, I've kind of solved the air tycoon meta in a lot of ways. But wow, this guy's flying 3 747s, making 17K. Jeez. um, well, two of mine will make the same amount, so let's go ahead and do that. Right, Hong Kong to London to Chicago. How many schedules per week? Oh, it's slot limited. I was like, that should be four. Like, I know the 747 is a fast plane. You know what I'm saying? It's zoomy. Um, Mach 0.86, I believe. So yeah, I was like, how in the world is only getting 3 schedules per week? That's a pretty lame number. But anyways, there we go. We're just gonna go ahead and compete with that because why not at this point? Kind of funny. And let's kind of use the last few on upgrading existing routes. Let's see if we can find some good ones. Ooh, London to Louisville. That's a good one. What's the other half of that? London to Baghdad. Okay, that's a little bit less good. But yeah, once again, just upgrade that. Tampa to London looks decent. Ooh, Pescara. What's the other side? Los Angeles. Okay, it's not even full without a 747, so it's not look at that. Wuhan to London. Oh, that's already a 747. Yeah, like my eye is drawn to the same thing every time, which is pretty good. It means I'm consistent at least. Uh, Bogota. Yeah, Bogota's pretty big, so we can upgrade that to a 747. It's so unrealistic. Like, we just got a 747 flying to freaking, what's the second half? Odessa. Doesn't make any sense, but hey, it's kind of funny. So, oh, we're not requesting any slots. Ooh, I am slacking. So let's just request some in main bases right now, because that seems to be the place where we need slots the most. And yeah, both New Yorks. Yeah, just max out the JFK. And yeah, we can now wait for the slots to come in. Alright, I'm back. I'm opening some more random ass, jank ass routes. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of good stopover destinations to New York. Of course, the range is not quite high enough, so we kind of want to minimize the range, make sure every single route is about 10,000 kilometers, so we're not wasting cities that would otherwise like not be able to do stopovers. But as you can see, in the range of route I'm looking for, I don't own any of the slots, unfortunately. So I guess what we're gonna go back to is making direct routes to the closer areas. Now, France, I believe most of it was apparently it's like 6,000 kilometers. It's just no stopover destination, so we gotta make those into direct routes too. Unfortunate, like the UK, you can use South America, but also it's just in general a little bit too close. Um, and obviously I don't own any slots in South America yet. I'd have to go ahead and request those soon, but I'm pretty bottlenecked on that department. So what we're gonna do for the South American routes is just aim for 4 schedules per week at around max range. So we're gonna do something like this to New York, and there's gonna be plenty of cities in close Europe left over, something like this, um, in order to make our stopover routes. But one thing we need to do before this turn ends, we're gonna need to set our prices right. So we're gonna need to say based on default fare, prices are 1.3 for any new route. Because of course we made a lot of new routes, some of them being 747s, so that should go ahead and set every single flight, which is completely empty, to 1.3 times pricing, which is exactly what we need. And another thing we need to do here is, let me think. I think that's all the important stuff. Now we can just keep opening good routes to New York, especially the closer ones with no stopover destinations. Um, Maybe in the future I'm gonna regret this when the planes which are long enough range to fly all the way from like Asia and then stop in New York, and then they want a close destination to stop over to. Um, so, for example, a route from Sapporo to New York would be roughly shaped like this, and it would come down to New York, like from the north, if you can see, like from like about where Ottawa is, and then I would need a stop, right? So I would need to stop to like some of these locations around here or something like that. Um, or I could use stops to locations like here. So we'll see about that in the future. Um, but for now, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, like these routes I'm making now are simply unusable. I've tried before in the past to figure out how to make them into stopovers, and there's just no options. So I'm not too concerned about making these routes into stopovers. Yeah, eventually we're just gonna take everything to New York, because that's gonna be like what all my hubs are like. Actually, like I take the biggest cities and then make every single route to like every single like route to those cities, instead of taking more medium-sized cities and then taking only other medium-sized or bigger. I just take a really large city and connect every single tiny little city, because I think there's a little bit more demand that way. Um, Although you also deal with a little bit more competition because you're sitting in the most popular airports in the entire world. But with that in mind, right? I mean, like for New York, honestly, the competition here is just not a lot. And as you can see, this guy's been making stopovers to these cities, which is pretty impressive. But at the same time, you see this 11-3. I'm not impressed by that. 11-3, 54% satisfaction. I'll open a direct flight on you. I don't care. I could make you into a stopover later on, but I don't need to. Um, of course, like it's kind of weird that I'm making direct flights, but once again, if there's no stopovers available, you don't have to force it. Like in Europe, of course, there's always stopovers available, which is why I love Europe um, in this game. But in the rest of the world, especially in places like South America and China, um, or Asia, then there's just not a lot of stopover locate. Like, what's another good example is LAX. LAX is a fantastic city with no stopover destinations. There's just none. There's no creative way of going about it. There's no magical things you can do to make stopover routes exist. There's just none. So you simply accept that fact and don't open stopover routes. It's kind of that simple, I guess. So yeah, we're gonna continue on this route making tear. Let's see if we can make some routes out of London. And yeah, there's still cities left over, which is really nice. I want to make sure I get rid of all my planes, make sure they're all flying, because after this, I'm gonna have a string of busy days. I'll probably still have enough time to record some episodes, but kind of minimalist ones. If that, unless I'm deciding to really into my IRL classes and stuff like that. So I'm probably not willing to do that. And by int, I mean intentionally like feed, which is like a term from League of Legends, which I also play. But yeah, I'm not trying to do that with my real life anymore. I've had a few bad years in real life, but um, it's time to kind of pull myself up and try not to continue down a bad path. So with that in mind, let's keep opening these routes, yo. No reason not to. Fantastic routes. I mean, 4 schedules per week is not the best, but uh, yeah, this has been a long episode, eh? 40 minutes. Of course, I haven't been able to join the alliance yet. Um, the main reason for that is simply because my value's too high. So next turn, my value will crash. Of course, since I've leased so many 747s, so then I'll be able to join next turn. No problem there whatsoever. So yeah, yeah, I've been asleep until now. So I think the 747 actually came out like 10 hours ago. But I mean, I had a long freaking night's sleep, completely worth. Um, in the past, I might have been addicted enough so that I would stay up all the way until the time certain planes were released, so I could get a head start on them. But I don't think that's worth it anymore. Just get to it whenever you got time. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because routes are taken, doesn't mean you can't compete on them. And I've strictly avoided competition in the past because I've been kind of a pro uh, player of the no low investment cost strategy, but I think this is the easier way to play. It's less time consuming. It's slightly better, I'd say, actually. So high satisfaction, high name value, that kind of stuff. Um, Honestly, it's easier to play, so we know why not just play like this. And what we are doing though is we're running out of any routes whatsoever. Yeah, do you guys see anything? I don't. Um, yes, darn, we ran out of slots again. I guess it'd be like that sometimes. All right, I'll be back. Oh, Edmonton, perfect. Let's go. I was like, I swear I have at least one more route. Yeah, we still have like 10 aircraft left. Jeez. So that's gonna be a lot of aircraft. A lot of requesting slots in and around these areas here, so we can make stops to New York. Let's see if I can find. Oh, there's no slots in New York. All right, I'll be back. All right, guys, turn has just passed. I want to take a look at my profit, and I haven't seen this yet, so let's go ahead. Oh, disappointing, guys, disappointing. It looks like when you have a bunch of new routes, the profit really does not look quite that lit. But let's take a look at how much our 747s are making. Um, where is that? Ah, here we go. Oh my god, look at that. So many, all 100% across the board. Is this an uptick or a downtick? Let's take it. Oh, it's an uptick. So that makes sense that they're all 100%. I doubt they'll be 100% all the time, but just look at this cash money. Keep in mind these are stopovers, you know what I mean? And they're still making such good money. Let's take a look at it this way. If we go into our airplanes and go down the 747s, look at each one. Okay, well, this one's pretty lame. Sapporo, what are you doing? How's it only making like 7K? Dang. As you can see, they're making like 7K. You know what? Apparently the 5, yeah, oh, I know why these aren't making very much money. It's because they're about the 5 break point, and look at the first class price is not set correctly. I don't know why. So we're gonna have to go and set the first class price correctly, because that should be costing us quite a bit actually. The first class is only like 10 or 11 first class seats, but they each cost so much that it seems to be making a decent difference. But yeah, as you can see, the profit is pretty good. The reason why our profit's not quite perfect is because, of course, all these new routes are still very empty. But yeah, we should be starting to print money very soon. Let me see if I can join an alliance now, by the way. So I think One World is our alliance. Yes. Let me attempt to join you guys. Yeah, 2% profit for 5% passengers is never a bad trade. So always join an alliance, guys. And yeah, we're gonna have a bunch of top 10 players soon, I guess. It's, yeah, 16th after all those leases, which is pretty funny. 8th place drop in one turn, not bad. I think we're gonna be coming back pretty soon, though. Of course, yeah. Look at how much our London counters and offices were used. That was like, I don't know, 40% last turn, and now it's 70%. So we ordered just about enough, and we can go ahead and collect our passenger breakpoint now. Look at that. We went from less than 500 to 800,000 in one turn from our 747s. So gotta love 747s. And yeah, I'm gonna spend some time and finish off this last aircraft off camera. Not a big deal, you know what I'm saying. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.